I sat in my car outside the coffee shop where my daughter had agreed to meet me. Through the window, I could see her already seated, scrolling through her phone with the same distant expression she'd worn for the past 2 years. She was 24 now, old enough to make her own judgments, old enough, I'd thought, to see through lies. But when she looked up and saw me walking toward the entrance, her face hardened in a way that made my chest tighten. I pushed open the door. She didn't stand, didn't smile, just watched me approach with her arms crossed, like she was bracing herself. "Thanks for coming," I said, sliding into the chair across from her. "I'm only here because you said it was important," she replied. Her voice was cold, measured. "I don't have long." I nodded. I'd expected that. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise of the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine, the low murmur of other conversations filled the space between us. "Emma," I started carefully, "I know things have been difficult. I know you're angry. But I need you to understand something." She looked away, jaw tight. "I never hurt your mother," I said. "Not once, not ever." Her eyes snapped back to mine, sharp and disbelieving. "That's not what she says." "I know." "She told us everything, Dad, everything, how you manipulated her, how you made her feel small, how you controlled the money, the decisions, everything." Her voice was rising now, trembling with barely contained emotion. "She said you made her afraid to speak, that she spent years walking on eggshells around you." I felt something crack inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "And you believed her?" "Why wouldn't I?" she shot back. "She's our mother. She's the one who stayed. She's the one who raised us. You're the one who left." I looked down at my hands, rough from years of construction work, and took a slow breath. "I didn't leave, Emma. I was asked to leave, and I went because I thought it would give everyone space to calm down. I stopped myself. I thought we'd work it out." She said nothing. "But your mother didn't want to work it out," I continued quietly. "She wanted me gone, and then she wanted you and your brother to believe I deserved it." Emma's expression flickered, just for a second, but then the hardness returned. "She wouldn't lie about something like that." I didn't argue. Not yet. Instead, I reached into the bag I'd brought and pulled out a single folder, plain, unmarked. I set it on the table between us. Emma stared at it like it might explode. "What is that?" "Proof," I said simply. She didn't touch it. "Your mother and I went to marriage counseling for almost 10 years, I said. "Every other week, sometimes more. We worked with the same therapist the entire time. Her name was Dr. Brennan." Emma's brow furrowed slightly, but she stayed silent. "Dr. Brennan recorded our sessions," I continued. "Not video, just audio. She told us it was for her notes to help track our progress. We both signed consent forms. Your mother knew. I knew. It was part of the process." I tapped the folder lightly. "These are transcripts, full transcripts of every session we had over the last 3 years. Dr. Brennan sent them to me after your mother filed for divorce. She thought I might need them." Emma's eyes darted to the folder, then back to me. "Why would she do that?" "Because your mother told the court I was abusive," I said, my voice even. "She filed a restraining order, claimed I was dangerous. Dr. Brennan was subpoenaed, and when she reviewed her records, she realized what was actually happening in those sessions." I pushed the folder toward Emma. "Read them, or don't, but they exist, and they tell a very different story than the one you've been told." She stared at the folder for a long moment, her fingers twitching slightly like she wanted to reach for it but couldn't quite bring herself to. "I don't need to read anything," she said finally, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. "You don't have to," I said, "but I'm not asking you to take my word for it, Emma. I'm asking you to take a therapist's word for it. Someone who spent a decade listening to both of us. Someone with no reason to lie." Her face was pale now. I stood slowly, leaving the folder on the table. "I love you," I said. "I always have, and I'm not going to beg you to believe me. But when you're ready to know the truth, it's right there. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard nothing. No movement, no words, just silence. At first, I didn't see the point. We argued sometimes, sure. What couple didn't? But it never seemed serious, never seemed unfixable. But Rachel insisted. She said she felt unheard, that I didn't understand her needs, that she was unhappy and didn't know how to explain it. So I went. I sat in that office every other Thursday evening for a decade, trying to be a better husband, trying to understand what I was doing wrong. Dr. Brennan was patient, thoughtful. She asked careful questions, let us both speak, never took sides. I liked that about her. I felt like she was genuinely trying to help us. In the beginning, the sessions were rough. Rachel would cry. She'd talk about feeling invisible, about how I didn't notice her, didn't appreciate her. She'd say I made decisions without consulting her, that I treated her like a child. I listened. I tried to change. I started asking her opinion on everything. Big things, small things. I deferred to her on finances even though I'd always managed the household budget. I made sure to tell her I loved her every day. I brought her flowers. I asked about her day. I tried to be present, and for a while it seemed to help. But then the complaints shifted. She said I was trying too hard, that it felt forced, that I was performing instead of actually caring. I didn't know what to do with that. So I asked Dr. Brennan. Just keep being consistent, she'd said. Change takes time. Rachel needs to feel safe enough to trust it. So I kept trying. Years passed. Our kids grew up. Emma went to college. Our son, Marcus, started high school. Life moved forward, but the therapy sessions never stopped. And slowly I started to notice something. Rachel's complaints were never quite satisfied. No matter what I did, there was always something else. Something I wasn't doing right. Something I wasn't seeing. And in the sessions, she would frame it all so carefully. She never raised her voice, never accused me directly. She'd just say things like, I feel like I'm not being heard, or I don't feel safe expressing my needs. Dr. Brennan would turn to me and ask how I felt about that, and I'd sit there, trying to find the right words, trying to defend myself without sounding defensive. Because that was the trap. If I got frustrated, Rachel would say I was shutting her down. If I stayed calm, she'd say I wasn't taking her seriously. If I tried to explain my perspective, she'd accuse me of making excuses. I started to feel like I was on trial. But I kept going. Because I thought that's what you did. You worked on your marriage. You didn't give up. But that doesn't mean I did what you're accusing me of. You're gaslighting me. That word. She started using it constantly. Anytime I disagreed with her version of events, anytime I tried to offer a different perspective, she'd accuse me of gaslighting. And once that word entered our conversations, everything became impossible. Because how do you defend yourself against an accusation like that? If you deny it, you're doing it. If you explain yourself, you're doing it. If you stay silent, you're doing it. I felt trapped. In the sessions, I tried to bring it up. I feel like I can't disagree with Rachel without being accused of something terrible, I said once. Dr. Brennan looked between us thoughtfully. Rachel, how does it feel when he says that? Rachel's eyes welled up. It feels like he doesn't believe me, like he's trying to make me sound crazy. I'm not trying to do that, I said, frustrated. I'm trying to explain that we remember things differently. But your version erases my experience, Rachel said, her voice shaking. Dr. Brennan nodded gently. It's important that both of you feel heard. But I didn't feel heard. I felt like I was being slowly erased. Emma started pulling away. She'd visit from college less often. When she did come home, she was distant, polite, but cold. Marcus stopped asking me for help with things, stopped coming to me with problems. When I asked Rachel if she'd noticed, she just shrugged. They're growing up. They're becoming independent. I wanted to believe that. But then one night, I overheard a phone call. Rachel was in the bedroom, door closed. I was walking past on my way to the bathroom when I heard her voice, low and urgent. I know, sweetheart, I know it's hard, but you have to understand. He's not going to change. He's been like this for years. I stopped. No, Emma, listen to me. I've tried. God, I've tried. But he doesn't see it. He doesn't see how he makes me feel. My stomach dropped. I can't keep living like this. I just can't. But I don't want you kids to feel like you have to choose sides. I just want you to understand what I've been going through. I stood there frozen, my hand on the doorknob. She was crying now. I love you, baby. I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? When she came out a few minutes later, her face was calm, composed. Everything okay? I asked carefully. Fine, she said. Just checking in with Emma. I didn't push, but I knew. The next few months were a blur of small betrayals. Marcus started making comments. Mom says you never listened to her. Mom says you used to yell at her when we were little. Mom says she's been unhappy for a long time. I'd never yelled at Rachel, not once. But when I tried to correct him, he'd just look at me with suspicion like I was lying. Emma stopped responding to my texts. When I called, she'd be brief, distant. I'm busy, Dad. Can we talk later? Later never came. I felt like I was losing my children and I didn't understand why. So I brought it up in therapy. Rachel, are you talking to the kids about our marriage? She looked genuinely hurt. They ask me questions and I answer honestly. I'm not going to lie to them. But what are you telling them? The truth, she said simply. Your version of the truth, I said, my voice harder than I intended. Doctor, Brennan intervened gently. Let's focus on how we can communicate better moving forward. But there was no moving forward, because Rachel had already decided. Not allowed to see the kids without supervision. The reason? Emotional abuse, pattern of controlling behavior. Petitioner fears for her safety. I stood there on my own front porch, staring at the paper, unable to process what I was reading. Controlling behavior. Fears for her safety. I'd never touched her, never threatened her, never even raised my voice. But none of that mattered, because she'd said it, and in family court, that was enough. I hired a lawyer. He was sympathetic but blunt. This happens more than you'd think, he said. Once abuse is alleged, the court has to take it seriously. You'll get your chance to defend yourself, but it's going to be an uphill battle. But I didn't do anything, I said, my voice breaking. I believe you, he said. But you're going to need proof. Proof. How do you prove something didn't happen? She'd been subpoenaed by Rachel's lawyer. They wanted her testimony to support the abuse claims. But when my lawyer contacted her, something unexpected happened. She refused. Not because she didn't want to be involved, but because she said the records didn't support Rachel's claims. I've reviewed all of my notes and recordings, she told my lawyer in a formal letter. And in my professional opinion, there is no evidence of abusive behavior by Mr. Brennan. In fact, the recordings indicate a pattern of efforts on his part to accommodate his wife's concerns, often at significant personal cost. My lawyer looked up at me, surprised. She recorded your sessions? Yeah, I said. We both consented. It was part of the process. Do you have copies? No, but she does. He leaned back in his chair, thinking, this changes things. They showed Rachel's complaints evolving, shifting, contradicting themselves. They showed me apologizing, over and over, for things I hadn't done. They showed Dr. Brennan gently pushing back on Rachel's characterizations, asking clarifying questions, trying to ground the conversation in specifics. And they showed Rachel deflecting, reframing, redirecting. In one session, Dr. Brennan asked Rachel to describe a specific incident where I'd been controlling. Rachel had paused for a long time. Then she said, "It's not one thing. It's a pattern. It's the way he makes me feel." Dr. Brennan had pressed. "Can you give me an example? Something concrete?" Rachel had grown defensive. "I don't like being interrogated." "I'm not interrogating you," Dr. Brennan had said calmly. "I'm trying to understand." But Rachel never gave an example. Not in that session, not in any of them, because there weren't any. The abuse allegations were dismissed. Rachel was ordered to attend co-parenting counseling. But the damage was already done, because for 2 years my kids had believed I was a monster. And transcripts don't undo that kind of harm. You don't have to apologize. Yes, I do, she said, and I could hear her crying. I believed her. I believed everything she said. I didn't even question it. She's your mother, I said gently. You trusted her. That's not wrong. But I should have listened to you. I should have... Emma, I interrupted softly. You're listening now. That's what matters. She was quiet for a moment. I read everything, she said. Every session. And Dad, the way she talked about you, the way she twisted things. I didn't see it before, but now I do. And I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. I called her, Emma said, her voice hardening. I asked her why she lied. What did she say? She said the transcripts don't tell the whole story, that Dr. Brennan didn't understand the emotional abuse, that I'm being manipulated by you. I wasn't surprised. Do you believe her? I asked carefully. No, Emma said immediately. Not anymore. He stayed with Rachel, took her side, cut off contact with me completely. I didn't fight him on it, because I understood. He was 17. His world had just been turned upside down, and it's easier to hold on to anger than to accept you were lied to by someone you love. So I let him go. I sent him a message, short and simple. I love you. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. He never responded, but I meant it. Rachel and I finalized the divorce 6 months later. It was civil, quiet. She didn't fight for alimony, didn't fight for the house. She just wanted it over. In the final hearing, the judge asked if there was anything either of us wanted to say. Rachel's lawyer shook his head. My lawyer looked at me. I thought about it for a long moment. Then I stood. Your Honor, I just want to say that I don't hate my ex-wife. I don't even blame her. I think she believed the story she was telling. I think she convinced herself it was true, and I think she'll have to live with the consequences of that. The judge nodded. Rachel didn't look at me. And that was it. 10 years of therapy, 20 years of marriage. Over. Real questions. About what happened. About how I felt. About what I wish I'd done differently. And I answer honestly. I tell her I wish I'd left sooner. That I'd recognized the pattern earlier. That I hadn't spent so many years trying to fix something that was already broken. But I also tell her I don't regret trying. Because that's who I am. I don't give up on people I love. Even when I should. She wanted to check in. See how I was doing. I'm okay, I told her. Better than I was. I'm glad, she said. And I want you to know something. What's that? In all my years of practice, I've seen a lot of difficult marriages, a lot of complicated dynamics. But what your ex-wife did, that was one of the most insidious things I've ever witnessed. I didn't know what to say. She didn't start out lying, Dr. Brennan continued. I genuinely believe that. But over time, she rewrote the narrative in her own mind. She took her unhappiness and turned you into the cause of it. And once she believed it, she made everyone else believe it too. Do you think she knows? I asked quietly. That she lied? Yeah. Dr. Brennan was silent for a long moment. I think part of her does, she said finally. But I don't think she'll ever admit it, because admitting it would mean facing what she did to you, and to your kids, and that's too much for most people to bear. But don't you want her to face consequences? I smiled sadly. She already is, Emma. She lost you. She's losing Marcus. She destroyed her own family. That's the consequence. Emma looked down at her hands. I just wish she'd say she was sorry. I know, I said, but some people never do. I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe I never will be. Because trust is a fragile thing, and once it's broken the way mine was, it's hard to imagine giving someone that power again. But I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just careful. I've learned that some people will rewrite history to avoid accountability, that some people will hurt you and call it love, that some people will make you the villain in their story no matter what you do. And I've learned that the only person who can defend you sometimes is yourself, not with words, not with arguments, but with evidence, with truth, with the patience to let consequences unfold naturally, because the truth has a way of surfacing, eventually. And when it does, it doesn't need to be loud, it doesn't need to be dramatic, it just needs to be there, waiting, patient, undeniable. I wonder if Emma would have believed me, if Marcus ever would. I wonder if I'd have spent the rest of my life being remembered as something I wasn't. But I don't dwell on it, because I do have proof. And because the people who matter, the people who are willing to look, will see it. The rest? They'll believe what they want to believe. And I've made my peace with that. I wonder if she ever listens to those recordings, if she ever reads the transcripts. I wonder if she hears her own voice carefully crafting a narrative that wasn't true. I wonder if she feels anything at all. But then I stop wondering, because it doesn't matter. Her story is hers to live with. Mine is mine. And I'm finally free of the weight of trying to make her believe something she was determined not to see. We had lunch. She's doing better. Starting to trust her own judgment again. Starting to forgive herself for not seeing the truth sooner. I keep thinking about all the times I was cold to you, she said. All the times I believed her without even asking your side. You were trying to support your mom, I said. There's nothing wrong with that. But I should have questioned it. I should have... Emma, I interrupted gently. You were put in an impossible position. You did the best you could with the information you had. That's all anyone can do. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. How are you not angry? I thought about that. Because anger would just tie me to her, I said, and I'm done being tied to her. Emma nodded slowly. I think that's the part I'm still working on. You'll get there, I said, and I meant it. The truth is, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm quieter, more guarded, but I'm also freer. Because I'm not trying to prove myself anymore. Not to Rachel, not to my kids, not to anyone. I know who I am. I know what I did and didn't do. And that's enough. The people who need proof already have it. The people who don't will never be convinced. No matter what I say. And I've learned to be okay with that. If there's one thing I want people to understand, it's this. Not all abuse is loud. Not all harm is visible. Sometimes the cruelest thing someone can do is rewrite your story and make you the villain. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away and let the truth speak for itself. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with dignity, with patience, with the quiet confidence that time will reveal what words never could. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Marcus will ever fully come around, if Rachel will ever acknowledge what she did, if I'll ever fully trust someone again. But I do know this. I survived. I protected my truth. And I'm still here. Not broken, not defeated, just changed. And maybe that's enough. And I don't need it anymore, she'd said. I know what happened. I keep it anyway, not because I need proof, but because it's a reminder that the truth is patient, that justice doesn't always look like revenge, and that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply refuse to play the game. Rachel wanted a villain. She needed someone to blame for her unhappiness, and she chose me. But the transcripts tell a different story. They show a man who tried, who listened, who changed, and they show a woman who was never going to be satisfied, because her unhappiness wasn't about me. It was about her, and no amount of therapy, no amount of change on my part, was ever going to fix that. And I'll live with the knowledge that I did everything I could. And that, in the end, was all I ever needed to do. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply step back and let the evidence speak. Because the truth doesn't need you to defend it. It just needs you to trust it. And time will do the rest. And I want him to know that I'm not going to force him to believe anything. I'm just going to tell him what happened. And let him decide for himself. Character count 230847. I need to continue expanding to meet the 35,000, 40,000 character requirement. Let me add more depth to Acts 2, 3, and 5 while maintaining realism. My back was killing me. My hands were raw and all I wanted was a shower and something to eat. But Rachel was waiting for me at the door, not with dinner, with an ultimatum. "We need help," she said. I set down my lunchbox, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean us. Our marriage. We need to see someone." I looked at her, trying to understand. "Did something happen?" "Nothing happened," she said, and her voice had that edge to it. The one that meant I'd already said the wrong thing. That's the problem. Nothing ever happens. We're just existing. I was exhausted. I wasn't equipped for this conversation. "Rachel, I just got home. Can we talk about this after I clean up?" She stared at me. "See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. I try to tell you how I feel, and you shut me down." "I'm not shutting you down. I'm just—" "You're always just something," she interrupted. "Just tired, just busy, just not in the mood to talk." I didn't know what to say. Because she was right in a way. I was tired, I was busy, and I wasn't in the mood for a heavy conversation. But I also loved her. So I said, "Okay, let's see someone." She blinked, surprised. "Really?" "Yeah, if that's what you need, then okay." And that was it. That's how it started. Not with a crisis, not with infidelity or violence or some dramatic betrayal, just with Rachel feeling unseen, and me trying to fix it. I learned that she wanted me to notice things, like when she got a haircut or when she cleaned the house or when she was upset about something even if she didn't say it out loud. I learned that I had a tendency to solve problems instead of just listening. So I changed. I started coming home and asking her how her day was before I said anything about mine. I started complimenting her more, telling her she looked beautiful, thanking her for the things she did. I stopped offering solutions when she was upset and just sat with her instead. And for a while it worked. She seemed happier, lighter. In one session, Dr. Brennan asked her how things were going. Rachel smiled. "Better," she said. "I feel like he's actually hearing me now." Dr. Brennan looked at me. "And how does that feel for you?" "Good," I said honestly. "I want her to be happy." And I meant it. But then the goalposts moved. It was subtle at first. Rachel would mention something I'd done, something I thought I was doing right, and frame it as a problem, like the time I surprised her with flowers. She'd been having a rough week. Her mom had been sick, and she was stressed about it. So I stopped at the store on my way home and bought her favorite flowers, sunflowers. I thought she'd be happy. But when I gave them to her, she just stared at them. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." "Rachel, what's wrong?" She set the flowers down on the counter. "It feels performative," she said quietly. "Performative?" "Like you're doing it because you think you're supposed to, not because you actually want to." I was stunned. "I do want to. That's why I did it." She shook her head. "You don't get it." And she walked away. I stood there in the kitchen holding a bouquet of sunflowers, completely lost. "But it was genuine," I said, frustrated. "I wasn't trying to manipulate you, I just wanted to make you feel better." "But it didn't feel like that," Rachel said. "It felt like you were checking a box." Dr. Brennan intervened gently. "Rachel, I hear that you didn't feel the intention behind the gesture, but I'm wondering if there's a way for you to communicate that to him without dismissing the effort he made." Rachel's eyes welled up. "I'm not dismissing it, I'm tired of having to explain my feelings all the time." And there it was, the pattern that would repeat itself over and over again for the next 8 years. I'd do something. She'd be unhappy with it. I'd ask why. She'd say I should already know. Dr. Brennan would try to bridge the gap, and nothing would actually get resolved. Not physically, but emotionally. Every session was about Rachel's needs, Rachel's feelings, Rachel's experience. And every time I tried to express my own frustration, my own exhaustion with the constant criticism, it would get reframed. "I'm not criticizing you," Rachel would say. "I'm just telling you how I feel." "But it feels like criticism," I'd reply. "Well, that's your interpretation." Dr. Brennan would step in. "Let's talk about how we can both feel heard." But I didn't feel heard. I felt like I was constantly defending myself against accusations I didn't understand. And the more I tried to explain, the worse it got. Because explaining was making excuses. And making excuses was invalidating her experience. And invalidating her experience was gaslighting. That word. Once Rachel learned it, everything became gaslighting. If I remembered something differently than she did, gaslighting. If I questioned her version of events, gaslighting. If I suggested she might be misinterpreting something I said, gaslighting. It was a weapon, and she used it constantly. If maybe I was abusive and didn't realize it. If maybe Rachel was right, and I was just too blind to see it. Dr. Brennan must have noticed. One day she asked to speak to me alone. Rachel agreed, though she didn't look happy about it. When it was just the two of us, Dr. Brennan leaned forward. "How are you doing?" she asked. I hesitated. "Honestly, I don't know anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't know if I'm helping or hurting. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I don't even know if I'm a good person anymore." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You are a good person, and you're trying very hard, but I want you to understand something." "What?" "You can't fix Rachel's unhappiness no matter how much you try, because it's not about you." I looked up at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean that Rachel's dissatisfaction with the marriage isn't coming from anything you're doing or not doing. It's coming from something inside her. And until she's willing to address that, no amount of change on your part is going to make a difference." I felt something crack inside me. "So what am I supposed to do?" She looked at me with genuine sympathy. "You're supposed to decide how much more of yourself you're willing to give. Because I thought that's what you did in a marriage. You sacrificed, you endured, you kept trying. But there's a difference between trying and being a martyr. And I was starting to realize I'd crossed that line a long time ago. You're not even trying anymore," she said in one session. "I've been trying for 9 years," I replied calmly, "and nothing I do is ever enough." "That's not fair, isn't it?" I looked at her. "Name one thing I've done in the past year that you were actually happy with." She opened her mouth, closed it. Dr. Brennan watched us both carefully. "Rachel?" she prompted gently. Rachel's face flushed. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's putting me on the spot." "I'm asking you a question," I said. "That's not putting you on the spot, that's asking for an example. You're being hostile." "I'm being honest." Dr. Brennan intervened. "Let's take a breath. Both of you." But I was done taking breaths. I was done walking on eggshells. I was done pretending that any of this was helping. She didn't seem surprised. "Have you told Rachel?" "No." "Why not?" "Because she'll make it my fault. She'll tell the kids I gave up, that I abandoned her." Dr. Brennan frowned. "Do you think she would do that?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. And I was right. Maybe this would be easier than I thought. But then she said, "But don't think you're going to walk away clean." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did." "What I did?" "The way you treated me, the way you made me feel." I stared at her. "Rachel, I never—" "Save it," she interrupted. "I'm done listening to your excuses." And that's when I knew. She was going to rewrite everything,